Matt, thanks for joining me. I wanted to first ask about you and your families and friends, if everyone's doing okay in this crisis.
Yeah, as far as I know, my immediate family and circle of friends are doing well. Everybody seems to be on the same page, listening to social distancing guidelines and, just practicing proper measures during this whole thing.
Good, good. May I ask you about, what you're seeing outside your window? What's your immediate environment during this crisis?
It almost feels like a disaster movie when people don't know the disaster's about to strike, in the same way that, like, right before a zombie movie when the zombies are there. Something like that. It's too quiet outside. It's too calm. And I think a lot of people are quietly on edge. There's not a lot of outward panic, but I think not having a frame of reference for this, the last time a pandemic of this magnitude struck the US was, of course, the Spanish flu. I just don't think people understand or have that frame of reference for what they should be doing or how they should be feeling. So I think that's really what it comes down to.
We're recording this conversation on Wednesday, March 25th, and this past weekend, the governor put in place the stay-at-home measures. Are you experiencing that your community is abiding by these measures, and what do you think is going on out there?
I mean, for the most part, people are abiding by the stay-at-home measures, as you mentioned. There are, however, unfortunately, a number of people who do still interact in a close distance. A number of people who, in Springfield, for example, are congregating at Mizell Field, which is on, one of the county parks that has a number of facilities there: a track, a field, soccer goals, football goals. So, unfortunately, people have been told to stay away from public parks. It is the same way in Millburn, although less so. There are fewer, public parks sprinkled throughout the township, and so as a result, people have less inclination to go and congregate in these parks.
Now, the TAPinto network has experienced a heavy increase in traffic due to the pandemic, and people are at home and they're trying to get news in their community about this. Tell me how you've experienced that increase in viewership.
Almost everything I post regarding, COVID-19 from all around the county, all around the state, has gotten a significant amount of traffic because people, I think, they're looking for any little bit of information that they can get that will help them and that will, allow them to feel a sense of normalcy, allow them to feel as if they're on top of the information coming out, and allow them to feel as if they have some control over their situation and their surroundings. So the more information that we give them, I feel like the more our traffic numbers will continue to increase because people see myself and other members of the TAPinto network as, trusted voices in the community.
Well, of course, media outlets are exempted from the stay-at-home measures. And do you feel that the leadership and the officials in the towns that you cover, are they being communicative enough with you and in general? What's your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I've had very little, resistance from members of the municipal government. I've already set something up with the mayor in Springfield, where after a certain time each day, I know that he will be mostly free to receive my calls and texts, and that he'll be there as a communicable resource. And in Millburn, the mayor has done thrice weekly updates on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. They're extensively detailed. They have a number of important information pieces in them. And so I haven't had any trouble in terms of getting my municipal governments to open up. Now, I can't really speak across the entire TAPinto network. I'm sure that the larger the municipal government, the less likely they are to respond to a reporter. But just across the board in the two towns that I cover, it's been very consistently, good in terms of the coverage.
Now, I want to ask you about the business climate, and obviously that affects TAPinto because it's an advertising and sponsorship-driven platform. An interesting thing that's happening with TAPinto now is viewership is 4 or 5 times increased on a daily basis, but the advertising and sponsorship opportunities are actually lessening in some ways because businesses are having a hard time right now. How have you experienced that, and what's the general business climate that you see?
Well, in regards to the business climate in Millburn, a number of venues have, of course, made the decision to close. even though they can offer takeout, delivery, curbside pickup, all that stuff. The Millburn Deli, for example, which is, of course, an iconic eatery in this particular section of the state, has made the decision to close for at least 2 weeks. And owner Andrew Morgan wrote on Facebook that it was, a decision based on the overall health of the community and the safety of the community. So the same thing has, of course, happened in Springfield. There's fewer businesses. The downtown is going through a major period of developmental flux. So, a number of construction projects that haven't been completed already, there would be businesses on the ground floor of those, and they haven't even begun construction yet. So Springfield's in a slightly different boat than Millburn. But across the board, for example, the head of the Business Improvement District in Springfield has been, very key. I'm meeting with all the businesses. I've sat down with them. Here's what they need to do to get through the next couple weeks. In Millburn, of course, there's actually a Google spreadsheet that's gone around from a local resident that has a running list of which businesses are still open, which businesses have closed. And I would assume that once normalcy does return in some capacity, the Chamber of Commerce will, begin to work with the businesses that had to close in order to get them back up and running.
What do you think the future holds for you as you're continuing your reporting and the two communities that you cover? What's your crystal ball? How do you see the next couple weeks looking?
Well, it's an interesting thing to, cover two towns that straddle the Union and Essex County border, of course. So, in Springfield, I'm working off the Union County freeholders, and in Millburn, I'm working off the Essex County freeholders. But it appears that at least at the local and county level, a structure has been put in place in order to maximize social distancing, in order to, really facilitate residents to stay home and knock this thing out for good. So I would have to imagine that even though we may see an increase in the number of cases and the number of deaths just based on the statistical evidence, the local governments have definitely they've set up their structures in a way that should hopefully minimize the negative impact from COVID-19.
Wow. And I've heard there's some volunteerism or some donations happening in your communities. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just yesterday, I was at the Millburn Short Hills First Aid Squad, where members of the Millburn Short Hills Chinese Association donated a very significant number of face masks to first responders. As you're well aware, of course, face masks cannot be reused. They are single-use products. And so as a number of infected patients have increased, first responders have found themselves really under the gun in terms of, getting these supplies that they need. So the Chinese Association in Millburn donated 3,000 face masks, the standard blue surgical kind, to the First Aid Squad, Police Department, and Fire Department, 1,800 in gift cards to local eateries. When they, are on the job, they can get a bite to eat, and $5,000 in checks to be split amongst the three first responding operations. Of course, the majority is going to the First Aid Squad because they are volunteer only. So they did need the majority of the money, but it was a generous gift. And for me, that's really what I'm focusing on. The positives in the community, people stepping up, people really coming to the aid of their friends and neighbors, and just that sense of community that not even coronavirus can knock out.
Well, clearly, that's what this crisis is forcing us to deal with. It's our neighbors and our community. And thank you for joining me, and thank you for your good work. Keep it up. Stay safe and healthy. And we'll catch you back here on TAPinto TV sometime soon.
Thank you very much.